Welcome back to the Seasoned Librarian, the podcast where we dish up literary delights and culinary curiosities. With our host, Dean Jones, we are absolutely thrilled to bring you a taste of something truly special in Season 15, Episode 17. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with the brilliant mind behind Æbleskiver, a new take on traditional Danish pancakes, the one and only Pim Pauling Overgaard. Get ready to have your perception of this classic pancake completely transformed. Pim's gorgeous cookbook, released in October 2024 by the collective Book Studio, is a revelation, offering a staggering 70 delicious and inventive ways to enjoy these sweet and savory surprises. So settle in and prepare to discover a whole new world of Æbleskiver with our guest, Pim Pauling Overgaard, right here on the Seasoned Librarian.
Welcome to the podcast. Today, I'm speaking with author, artist, Pim Pauling Overgaard. Pim, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pim, can you tell the audience where you are from in the world and where you live now?
I am half Swedish, half Norwegian, and I grew up in Sweden, where my dad is from. My mom is from northern Norway. So I lived in Sweden, but of course spent quite a lot of time in Norway too with my Norwegian side of the family. And then the last, I think 6-7 years before I moved to the States, I lived in Malmö, which is also south of Sweden, which is right across the bay from Copenhagen. And now there is actually a bridge between the two countries, so you can drive or take the train. It takes 10 minutes to get across. But back then we had to take the ferry every day when I went to school. When I lived in Malmö, I went to school in Copenhagen. And then in my early 20s, I moved to San Francisco, and then I've been here ever since.
Nice. So you're local, to me at least.
Yes, I didn't actually realize you were in the East Bay until today.
Yeah. You first gained international recognition for your illustrated books. Can we talk about your career beginnings and how you became involved with cookbooks eventually?
It was quite a long, twisty road to get to cookbooks, but I think my interest for food, in eating it and making stuff up and helping my family, my grandma especially when I grew up, cook, was always a big part of my life, and I've always been crazy about food. I love food. But I didn't actually start in the food business until much, much later. I always cooked a lot, and my dad was home with me a lot during my school years, especially my early school years. And he was a wood teacher, so he would get home early, and we would always make something, and he would let me make whatever I wanted always, which I think is why I have no fear in trying new things and mixing not necessarily flavors, but even creating recipes. Because he would be like, what do you want? And maybe I said, oh, I want cinnamon buns. And maybe I was like 5. And I didn't know how to make it. And we didn't get a cookbook. And I started, what do you think you need? Flour. And I started making, and he, of course, knew, any adult would know that nothing would come out of it, but he would let me try over and over. And then eventually through the years, we started following cookbooks. And that's really how I think I got my start with I know I got my start with trying recipes and trying things out and mixing things up and all of that. But then I also like to draw a lot. And because he was a wood teacher, he had a wood shop, you could say, in our bottom floor. And I would hang out with him, and I would draw, and I would take apart the radio and put it back together, and I would have my little paint sessions, and I would start to sew my own clothes very early. So I had a lot of that with my dad. He was very technical and artsy with his craft, or he is still. But then when I actually went to school, I chose to go into engineering with a focus on civil to begin with. but I feel like it has a lot in common because you build things, and I always loved math. Um, but I did that, and then long twist of different things happening, I realized that I really wanted to go into fashion. So then I went to fashion school when I first came to America.
Oh,
And then I
wow.
went to, yeah, so then I went to college here. Actually, I took a tailoring school first in Copenhagen as well. And then I came here and I took fashion. And then I started out in fashion and realized if you're in a corporate job in fashion, it's not very a lot of variables. It's very same thing year after year. So I thought I should get into pattern making, and I'm not talking about the pattern making when you make the pattern to sew the clothes, but actually surface design. So I turned into surface design, and it took so many twists, but then I got into gluten-free cooking because of my cousins, because they were diagnosed with celiac disease.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the door into me starting to take food and recipe creations more seriously.
Where did you
So it
study?
was a lot of twists and turns.
Where did you study fashion at?
Back then, there was a school called Louise Salinger Academy of Fashion, and it was just during the turn when Academy of Art started their fashion program. So they hadn't started it when I started school, and of course, when Academy of Art got their program, or not of course, but when they got their program really going, and the little school that had been there for so many years sort of died out.
Yeah.
And I did also take about half a master's at the Academy of Art in text surface design textiles specifically, like after years after when I got into that. But Louise Salinger Academy of Fashion was a fantastic school. I went to college, and it
Academy.
was down on Minna Street, South of Market in San Francisco.
Yeah, I think I've been there. I remember that was a long time ago though. But
Yeah.
I've been to FIIDM.
Hmm.
I got to go to their library. They have a wonderful library, but Academy of Arts has a
Nice.
lovely library too.
I bet.
Yeah. I'm kind of a library nerd, so I like to go to all the different libraries and stuff.
I would love to go to both those actually, Academy of Art or FIDM. I would love that.
You should just, yeah, if you walk in, they'll just let you go to the
Really?
FIIDM. Yeah, just go there. They're really nice.
I'll try that.
It's really lovely. And they have a large library of fabric swatches and stuff. It's amazing.
That's the one I would love to go to even more.
It's magical. It's really nice.
Oh, I have to try that.
Now, I love Appleskiver's. Is it Aebleskivers or Appleskivers? I always wonder if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
It's the Aebleskiver. It's good. No, I'm
Aebleskiver.
saying it wrong. I'm so embarrassed right now because I
There you go.
said it wrong because I'm not Danish. So I'm butchering the name of my own book, which is not great. But it's more like it literally means apple slices. So it's Æble, which is apple, and then skewer, which is almost like a skewer, like a chicken skewer. It's more like that. So able and then skewer, almost. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, totally. And when you look at them, it does make sense too. It's neat. I love them because like I've always had them only at Christmas time. But then I've always thought it's just a shame that we only eat this at Christmas when the people they always bring out their pans and they would cook it for a large group of people, which means the person who's doing the cooking is doing it for a long time. The person who has to do all that.
It's so true. It does take a long time if
Yeah,
you want to really get into it
everybody
with
else
a
is
lot
having a
of
good
them.
time and they're like chained to the stove for a long time. But it's
Well,
so good.
it's you have to just have the party in the kitchen and then it'll be fine.
Yeah. And if anybody, gets this cookbook, get more than one pan. That's my advice.
Dude, that's not a bad advice.
But I always thought, these would be nice to have more than just at Christmas. And I wonder if other people feel the same way because like it's nice and it's really kind of a fun thing to make, especially if you have kids. I think it's a really nice thing. Everybody loves it. It's a really fun, festive thing to make. And you've taken it with your cookbook, you've taken it beyond just like the Christmas time thing. Like I'm used to having with lingonberries and other
Mm.
things, and like maybe some maple syrup or something, but like you've taken it way beyond that and made it a really adaptive thing. So it's really, can you talk about how you were inspired by this wonderful dish to make a cookbook out of it?
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing because it is Danish, of course,
Yeah.
but and like I said, Sweden is so close. It takes minutes to get across. But and even if I lived in Sweden for 20 plus years and went to school in Copenhagen and was in Copenhagen a lot, I had actually never heard of Æbleskiver until I moved to California. And very few Swedes that I know what they even are. So I was inspired by everything here in California when it comes to Æbleskiver specifically. I mentioned before that my cousins were diagnosed with celiac disease.
Yeah.
So and back then there wasn't a lot to choose from. Now you have so many more options, but back then you didn't really have a lot of options, and they didn't have a lot of recipes or finished goods to get. So I said that I would make a Swedish pancake recipe for them that was gluten free. The crepe style pancakes, and I worked a long time to get the recipe really right. And then I thought maybe I should sell this because there is no mix like this out there, because there wasn't back then. There isn't a huge amount of Swedish pancake gluten-free mixes in America now.
Yeah.
But I started a company called Skandilicious,
Oh,
and I started making Swedish pancake mixes. And then I, sometimes I like things to be come in three. So I thought the second one would be the Swedish waffles, which is those sweetheart shaped. They're really buttery and crispy. So it was Danish Æbleskiver, Swedish pancakes, Swedish waffles. And then I started doing research. I was like, is there anything else in this family of foods from Scandinavia? And then I found Æbleskiver, and then I started reading everything I could find about them. And then I went to Solvang and had them. And William Sonoma was selling pans and I don't know if they were selling mixes at the time, but they were selling the pans, and they had it in the catalog back then. And that's sort of how it all started. So Æbleskiver was my third mix that I made, gluten-free back then. And then it sort of went from there. And then I started making recipes where it would be a new recipes for whatever. And then the recipe would say, take 1 cup or something out of the mix to make this recipe. And that's sort of how I started thinking, like, oh, maybe I should just make a book instead. And that's how the book idea came up.
now you've taken something that I guess people would normally think of as a breakfast food or kind of a breakfast for dinner kind of thing if you're at a holiday. Now, but the thing is, with your book, you show so many different other ways you could make it, and I thought it was amazingly inventive. Can you talk about some meals or festive times that are good for using the Æbleskivers for other types of purposes?
Thank you. Yes, I think probably the easiest meal to have everything fit would be brunch, because brunch you can have sweet or savory, whatever, because it's sort of in between the two times. Obviously,
Yeah.
the name says it all. Um, but there's also other festive things. Like on the cover, I have the wreath, which is originally inspired by a midsummer wreath that we have around our hair
Right.
for midsummer. And I was inspired by that, and it's a great thing to have on a buffet table. And I think you can do something like that for any kind of holiday or any kind of buffet sitting. And there's also a lot of recipes that you can use as a side dish, like the cornbread Æbleskiver I made, which is a really tasty cornbread that has this crispy, buttery surface around the whole thing instead of just in the top and bottom or one side if you cut it. Um, but I also think that Swedes in general, we have our Swedish pancakes, we have a lot of savory recipes too. We almost use it in similar ways as you would a tortilla. Like we put stuff in it, roll in, put it in a pan, and sprinkle cheese on top of it and put it in the oven. So there's a lot of those ideas, and I kind of took that into a lot of these recipes too. And I have a pizza recipe that I put um, pepperoni and olives and things in the batter, and then I make the Æbleskivers, and then I put them in a big pan, and then I put that in the oven with cheese on top. So there's a lot of different times and snack, like the football game that was on yesterday. Of course, that would have been a great. There's a lot of recipes that would have gone good for any kind of snack food that would go well with that kind of setting.
I think that the of these, like the cornbread variation was my favorite because I grew up eating cornbread, and this
Yeah,
just elevates it to something so much better, and I just love that.
they're so good, and everybody loves that recipe, and it's kind of foolproof too. It turns out good every time.
Yeah, yeah.
And that one I also have in three versions. I have a classic, a gluten-free, and a vegan, and I have the recipes, the ingredients listed next to each other, the three, and then I use it. You can use the same directions, so it's very easy to do in either whichever one you prefer to do that specific day. So that's a good one. Comes with a good side salad too, and guacamole and all the good stuff.
You've had such neat variations on this. I loved that you made it adaptable for vegan and gluten free because I think that's something that a lot of cookbooks don't really touch on, and it kind of then excludes a lot of people. And in yours is a very inclusive cookbook. So aside from it being fun and really beautiful to look at, you also are very, kind of conscious of many, many different demographics here diet wise, and that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Now, beyond the recipes themselves, the book emphasizes a visual appeal of the Aebleskiver. How important was the photography in capturing the essence of these dishes? I know that for many people that I've eaten them, so for me it's not, something I wouldn't imagine in my mind. But if you haven't eaten them, that would have been really hard to convey. Was that something that was at the forefront of your mind when you made this?
Yes, very much so. So much of what I do is visual, and I really like to work with the visual part. And I also, when I look through cookbooks, I want to know what it looks like. I'm rarely, unless I know a lot about the specific dish, I rarely try a new dish if there isn't a picture. And also because some of these were sort of unexpected, like even the cornbread, because we just talked about it. Like I still want to see like what does it look like. There's a lot of side dishes. I just called actual Æbleskiver side dish, but there's also like a whole plate of things. So there's jams, and there's sauces and salads and cured salmon, even the gravlax recipe. So there's a lot of recipes that goes with the actual Æbleskiver as well. And I want to know what it looks like on the plate. And of course, I love that kind of presenting part of it too.
Yeah.
I'm not a photographer. I didn't know anything about photography, but because I did this at the same time as I also work a full-time job and had other projects on the side, I often finish this at 3 in the morning. So it was sort of out of necessity. I had to learn how to take the photos myself. Couldn't really call someone in at that time to be flexible. So yeah, it was very important for me to the photos. It should look good too. I think it just adds to the experience, the complete experience.
I imagine you've gotten a lot of feedback on the book since it's been out, and I know you've probably done some signings and such. What has been the feedback you've gotten on this? I'm sure a lot of people have probably written to you or emailed you about this because it's something that people really love.
Yeah, I got such good response for this book, in so many different ways. And when I go around and meet people, if I travel or do events or signings and things like that, it's so interesting. Even, I mean, of course, with people who come to the event specifically because they know, or they may have a relative or something, but even other places where who's Swedish and lived in Sweden, had never heard of it. I'm surprised how many people know about these. They Everyone has a story. It's a grandma used to make them, or my neighbor used to make them, or I have a pen, I never knew how to use it. Or there's so many lovely stories out there, and they're so excited to have a book to work off of it. And I also did get very good response with the visual parts of it too, which of course means a lot to me.
I really I love the book quite a bit, and I have a friend who makes Aebleskivers at winter solstice every year, and it was so nice to share this with them, and they really loved it, so they were able to get a copy of it for themselves as well.
Oh,
And
nice.
it was
Thank you
such a
for
nice, yeah, and
sharing.
yeah, it's nice you provided that connection because it's such a neat thing, and people, it is like a special thing for so many people. I imagine that it's a touchstone.
That's exactly what I wanted. So I wanted all the basic to be there, the classics, but then I also wanted it to be like if you wanted to, you could try something new. So you have a lot of options in there. And pancakes, like you said too about pancakes, pancakes is such a good food because everyone knows what a pancake is.
Yeah.
But it's like a new way for a lot of people to make a pancake. Like you said, if people have kids and stuff, they can make them with kids, and it's all of a sudden it's a sphere shaped pancake. It's something that's so familiar and so foreign at the same time, which I find exciting.
I think a lot of people probably see the pans and don't know what they are because I see them often at yard sales or secondhand shops. And I'll usually, if I find, like, I have a couple, and if I find one that's seasoned, and if I don't need one, I'll still buy one and give it to somebody because I think they're a nice thing. A lot of
I
people are
love
happy
that.
to have them because it's
Yeah.
not something you can just find anywhere. But I think they're starting to be carried more. I know that Williams Sonoma makes one.
Yeah, they have one. And I mean, even Amazon, even Google and
Yeah.
Æbleskiver pan, you get so many results now. Uh, but a lot of people have told me too, like I always had a pen and I never knew what to do with it. So that's so great. Yeah, I hope they'll make them.
Did you have any problem when you pitched it to the publisher? I mean, because if publishers can be, especially right now, they're so conservative. Was this hard to pitch to a publisher, or were they really receptive?
I think I was really lucky. I had a really good referral to the publisher too. Um, but they were intrigued right away.
Yeah, there's nothing else like this, so it's kind of a standout thing. It's going to catch people's attention. So that's a really good. That's a good bet for a cookbook too. I think they probably saw a sure thing here. I also wanted to ask you. You are living in a city that is a food city. What are some of the things that you've seen in San Francisco, your favorite things about food there? What are some of the discoveries you've made food wise? And also, I want to throw in too, have you been able to find any, say, Swedish or Norwegian foods in the Bay Area?
Um, there's so much fantastic food in the Bay Area. I feel like I haven't really gone back enough after the whole COVID period. Before then, I was out so much more, and I haven't really fully gone back to it. And I know I'm missing out, but I also know that there's so many things that I want to try out there. Um, when it comes to Scandinavian, we lost two important sources. There's a store in Berkeley that was around
Yes.
for like 50 years that they just closed, unfortunately.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a real shame because that was a very loved store. I don't remember ever
Uh,
going in there, and there was at
yeah,
least 15 other people in there every time I went. I've never been in there when it was empty.
yeah, it was such a good story. The same woman I think had it that whole time.
Yeah.
Um, and this is such a great store. I went there often. IKEA does have some of it, but it's not even close
Yeah.
to anything. Um, and then there was also a Swedish restaurant called Play in the hotel behind the Opera House somewhere. I
Oh,
forget what it's called now.
wow.
But they closed too during COVID, I think. And they have another restaurant up in Petaluma called
Oh,
Stockholm.
oh,
Yeah, it's a little more lunch, I think, rather than like full sit on dinner like they had it in the city on Play before. But I hear it's fantastic, so I have to go out and try that. Um, aside from that, I see a lot of Scandinavian things and cakes and food around, but specific like little dishes. But I don't know if there's one that is like full on Scandinavian right now. If there is, I'd love to know.
do you have any favorites outside of that? Any favorite places you like to go to in the city or in the Bay Area?
Oh, I have so many, but there's always a lot of like the old ones that never get old, even though they
Yeah.
are old. Like a lot of the mission down in the mission, some of the Mexican restaurants that
Hmm.
I forget even the names now, and like foreign cinema is always fun, and La is it? And it's not Laszlo's. What's the food restaurant next door that have the rooftop bar? They have
Oh yeah.
fantastic ribeye,
Yeah. Yeah.
things
Yeah.
like that. That is one of my favorites. But then there's also so many new ones um, that are fantastic that I almost don't want to name any because there's so many, and there's so many that I also haven't tried yet.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's a kind of a Bay Area thing. I totally
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. I exactly know what you're saying.
There's so much here. There's so much. I mean, you can literally go to a restaurant every day for a year, I think, and not go through them all.
I even have that in Walnut Creek. It's like my brother just told me about a new place, and I was like, "Oh, I live here, and I didn't know that was there." And he goes, "Oh, it just
I
opened."
I love that. I hear that all the time, all the time. It's so great. We're so spoiled. We're so spoiled
We
here.
are,
It's
we are.
fantastic. It's fantastic. And then a lot of things lately with the whole COVID and everything, I started like everybody else ordering in, which is great and really sad at the same time because you get fantastic food to the door, but you miss out of that experience
Yeah.
of of being there. So actually, it's a good note to self for me to get out more.
Well, if you ever need Walnut Creek recommendations, I can make a lot. There's some great places
Oh,
here.
I'd love that. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Some great Mexican food places here. A little bit everything. I'm
Mm,
also very spoiled, even though it's a small town. Now,
yeah,
I want to ask you, now that the Aebleskiver book has been out, do you have anything else you're working on now?
I do. I have when I first made the book, I actually did. I was mentioning before, I had the Swedish pancakes and the waffles and the Äbleskiver. So I did all three books at the same time. So I actually have two more, which is not just Swedish pancakes, it's all the other pancakes from the world. It's the crepes and the Swedish and the American and all kinds of pancakes that are not Æbleskiver in that book. And then I have the same for waffles, like the Swedish and the Belgian and the I forget what all that's in there now. But I actually have those two close to done. So
Very
that's what I'm
nice.
working on right now to putting those together. Almost all the photos are even done.
That's
So
exciting.
that's very exciting. It's not in any kind of production phase yet, but I wanted to make a trilogy out of those three. And then I am actually also working on the products again, the mixes, and I was doing some other mixes too that are not just pancake based. So I'm working on getting those produced now because when I did it back in the day, I used the cotton food license, but it's too hard to make at home. You can't do it fast enough for it to really work long term or to grow. So I'm working on getting that done. And then, of course, the whole social media, I haven't really been able to focus on too much of that. So I'm trying to get on my website a little more and really get more information on how to make the Æbleskiver and sort of try to get more information out so people can see more about it.
That's wonderful. Pim, I want to thank you for being on the podcast. I've loved getting a chance to talk to you. I want to have links in the bio for your website and also links to your book so people can purchase it. Pim, thank you for being on the podcast. I've loved getting a chance to talk to you.
Thank you so much. It's been great. I appreciate it.
What a delightful conversation with Pim Pauling Overgaard. I don't know about you, but I'm already dreaming of whipping up a batch of those ricotta salata Æbleskiver with grilled corn. And that white chocolate hazelnut version with sweet beet ice cream. Absolutely divine. Pim's cookbook, Æbleskiver, a new take on traditional Danish pancakes, is truly a testament to the versatility and deliciousness of this treat. Whether you're a Æbleskiver enthusiast or have never even heard of them, This book is a must-have for any home cook. You can find Pim's book, Æbleskiver, a new take on traditional Danish pancakes, wherever fine books are sold. And be sure to join us next time on the Seasoned Librarian for more literary and culinary adventures. Until then, we will see you in the library.